basically one of like the elder races, like it's a god race. I almost see them as almost like the Olympians. DorkLair! Welcome to another DorkLair action figure review. Today I'm taking a look at the Cosmic Legions Vorgga test shot. So here we have another look at a Cosmic Legions test shot, sort of an early look at the line that is really right around the corner. These are wrapping up production very soon. They'll be shipping out from the factory, I think sometime in April or May, and then getting into our hands sometime in May or June. I've been able to review some of these test shots. I am trying to get through every single one. I'm pretty confident I'm going to be able to do that. But don't worry, once the actual figures release, I will also review the full release figures, the fully painted versions. This is just an early look to give people a sense of what they might be dealing with, if they want to pre-order, if they're worried that things might sell out, just to get a heads up, particularly with the sculpts and the articulation on these. And while I'm going to be borrowing a lot of these test shots for review, and most of them I'll be very gingerly posing, I won't probably get super detailed with the articulation. This particular one is mine, so I can kind of get a little bit deeper into things and push it a little further, because if I break it, it's my own, and I don't have to worry about paying anyone back or dealing with ruining somebody else's figure. So hopefully I'll be able to show a decent range of articulation on this kind of new sort of female buck in the 1.0 scale. These parts are going to match up with the 1.0 Mythic Legions figures and the bigger 6-inch Cosmic Legions. So this is a fun one because it does represent sort of like a new buck, the 1.0 style female. In this video, I will also be taking a look at the Relic of the Lost Khronnen test shot as well. And here we go with a close-up. And one of the main things about these test shot reviews really is the sculpture. And without the paint on there, you can isolate that sculpture and focus only on that and really get a good look at it. So here's a nice look at that head sculpt with this hair. That's kind of interesting how it kind of comes out from within the head, almost like she has a carapace or some kind of outer shell type head structure here. And then she's got hair underneath. Vorgga. And just a cool head sculpt. And there is that alternate head sculpt that I had on there in the beginning. And then this collar piece is very similar to your traditional Mythic Legions collar piece that is removable. We got traditional shoulder pauldron setup here. Everything about this figure is very much a standard Legions style figure and fully compatible with Mythic Legions 1.0 figures. So you've got your sort of your first 1.0 style female here. And then you can get into that torso, a very slimmer waist, which is going to add a lot of articulation in there. It will create a little gappage, but that's a little bit of a solvable thing that we can talk about in the articulation. And some pouches along the soft plastic belt. And we've got these new arms and the gauntlets with the ports on there. Some fists. She came with a bunch of hands I'll talk about in the accessories. But yeah, and I think these upper thighs, I think most of the legs are going to be shared among a few characters. Like, at least the upper legs are the same as Thygars. And then I think the lower legs are the same as one of the Tusk officers or something like that. But there you have the feet. Just a ton of super crisp lines going on throughout the entire thing. So a really cool looking figure right there with Vorgga. And I'm currently awaiting some other Cosmic test shots, so unfortunately I'm not going to be able to compare Vorgga with any other Cosmic Legions test shots just yet, but I do have some other figures I would like to show next to Vorgga. First, here she is next to my other two test shots. These are the only other two test shots that I own. I am not personally a big test shot guy, but on the left is Noobnik the Goblin, and on the right is Baron Volgar 2. Next up, we've got a couple other Mythic Legions figures. On the left is a Kit Bash that utilizes basically a 2.0 style female body, and that uses the Shadow Elf Warrior and Ravenna over here. And then on the right, we have dwarf-sized figure, which is Gonks the Goblin. Some other familiar lines, we have on the left a kit-bashed Swarm figure from the Valaverse Action Force line, and on the right we have a classic Green Goblin from Marvel Legends. Here we have Vorgga with a couple taller figures. On the left is the Predator from Mezco Toys. On the right is the Gears of War Kate Diaz from Storm Collectibles. Finally, we have Zodak from the Masterverse New Eternia line and the Krig from Mezco Toys. For height, Vorgga's ponytail puts her right at about 7 inches tall. For accessories, Vorgga comes with an alternate head sculpt. This is the same head that I had in the beginning of the video with this mask covering up her face. So it's pretty much like the same head, but on the front part, you have this mask over here, which I think is an awesome look. This is a really cool head sculpt right here. Of course, she's got the 2 shoulder pauldrons, which peg in just like any typical Mythic Legions style shoulder pauldrons with the standard peg holes here. They come off just like that, and that's how she looks without the shoulder pauldrons right there. So you got that bulkier 1.0 style female frame right there. For a weapon, she comes with this massive 2-handed gun that has double barrel on the front. And if you remember, the Thigh-Guard figure had a very similar gun, but it almost had like a jackhammer front on it. This one you can see is modular. I think they'll probably come glued on. But you never know, like if you wanted to mess around with them, maybe one of the customizers will start doing parts for them or something like that. They probably would come unglued if you wanted to do it. I'm assuming they'll come glued in there. And then it's got a hole here on the side for the ammo belt, which you can plug in right there. And the ammo belt is a soft rubber, and then that can kind of wrap around the body over to the backpack, and that plugs into the backpack on the bottom right here and slides in there pretty nicely and nice and firm. So there's your whole kind of like minigun sort of like setup right there with the backpack. And I do love the way the backpack looks right here. It's a really cool looking piece. And that's got the classic Mythic Legions style square piece that pegs into the back like all those old back port type things and goes in and out of there very easily, nice and snug. So very cool piece right there. And this one does have a couple of the ports for these little pieces. She comes with a couple of these, but she doesn't have anything to attach to it with these. Some of the other figures come with some little parts that can attach. At least I don't think she's supposed to, and this test shot didn't come with any, but she's got some smaller ones and some longer ones. And if you don't want to see holes, even if you don't have something to attach to it, I think the smaller ones plugged in there look pretty good, and I think I'll probably just leave those in like that when I'm posing her up. I don't remember them showing a bunch of hands with the Vorgga product photos, but she does come with a lot. I think she comes with like 12 hands, and to start off, we've got a pair of fists right here. She does have 2 pairs of gripping hands. This pair has vertical hinges and the other pair has horizontal hinges. Same deal with the trigger hands. This is a pair of horizontal hinged trigger hands, and she also comes with a pair of vertically hinged trigger hands. And then she's got a pair of full-on gesturing hands right here, and then sort of a pair of like mid-gesture hands. You might be able to use these to grip some larger pieces or just have them be sort of clawing type hands. Okay, next up for articulation, the head is on a ball joint, and it can kind of come up and down a little bit, and it can cock side to side a little bit like this, twist all the way around, and then the neck is, as you can see below there, the neck is also on a swivel. Arm can swing all the way around. Obviously, when you have the shoulder pauldrons, it's going to limit things. Shoulders can go all the way up into a T pose, about that far. Single jointed elbow allows it to come up to just about 90 degrees, and then you can twist it above the elbow. And then there's a twist at the gauntlet as well. And then the hand has a twist and a hinge, depending on which hand you have. It might have a horizontal hinge like this one or a vertical hinge. My copy is really loose in the waist there, but there's a ton of range of motion. You're obviously going to see gap, but you could pose it around and like lift this skirt piece up a little to kind of close that gap off a little bit. But as you can see, certain poses that might happen. But I mean, there's just a lot of range in that waist there. And yeah, definitely loose on this one. This will probably be something that's not present in the regular figure, but pretty cool range of motion there. You just got to be careful and move the skirt around if you're going to be cranking her back like that. Legs can kick way forward, but not really back, and that is because she has an attachment here that gives her a butt unlike the other Legions figures. It actually plugs in with a ball joint into it the same way a tail would plug into a standard Mythic Legions figure, and I'll pop her apart after to show you the different pieces. Legs can go way out into the splits, twist at the top of the thigh, single jointed knee comes up actually like a little bit past 90 or just right about to 90 degrees. Ample twist below the knee, twist above the ankle here with a hinge, and then an angled peg for ankle rocker. So pretty much your standard points of articulation that a Legions figure typically has, but some parts have a little more range just because of the construction and the shapes of those different parts on this particular figure. Okay, next I'll disassemble the figure. This is probably the only one that I'm going to do this to, so enjoy it, because I'm not going to be pulling apart other people's figures, which is what all the other test shots I'll be reviewing will be. Those will be other people's. So getting into the head, you've got a pretty typical kind of neck situation here, and then again a collar piece. And here's what that looks like without the collar piece right there. And with the head reattached without the collar. That's how she looks. And then we can pop that waist off again. Mine's really loose. That'll probably not be a problem. And if it is a problem, it's not a big deal. I've had loose ones before. It's very easy to just fix that. And there's a look at the butt cover piece that gives her a butt. It's a ball peg, not just a straight peg. So that goes in just like that. Yeah. And that's pretty much all I'll take apart right now. I mostly want to take these arms and try the new bare female arms on a Mythic Legions figure. And then here's a look at Vorgga's torso with the arms off, and it looks to me like while it is glued, I kind of think there might be a separate piece here. I think this chest piece and these shoulder parts, they look separate. So again, customizers might be able to have a little fun with this torso. But pretty cool looking little piece right there. And then here's a look at Vorgga's arms on a 1.0 style Legions figure. Now this is a very slim torso. This is, I think, one of the smallest torsos that they currently have. But I think the arms look pretty good, and I think they could probably double as male or female arms on that torso. But yeah, bare arms on a 1.0 figure. And then one more thing I wanted to cover, which is this secret bonus. They added a handful, they said a very small handful of this head sculpt, which is available as a standalone piece, an accessory piece. You can get the silver one still if you pre-order from a retailer, or if you had pre-ordered directly any Cosmic Legions from the original pre-order direct from Four Horsemen, there's the gold one that'll come with it. This is the Khronnen. This is a skull of the Khronnen, which is basically one of like the elder races. Like it's a god race. I almost see them as almost like the Olympians of the Cosmerium universe and the world of Cosmic Legions. But very, very cool head sculpts, tons and tons of details. They did say that they are planning this for a figure sometime in the future, but for now, we just get these individual head sculpts, and this test shot version is incredibly rare because, first of all, the test shots were incredibly rare, and then they only inserted these into a handful of those. So super, super hard to find, I'm sure, in test shot form is this lost Khronnen head sculpt. And I do think on Vorgga it's slightly big, you know, on this slimmer body, but it'll probably look perfect on like Thygar's body or, you know, one of those Tusk officer type characters. And just so you can see it on a bigger figure, here it is on my test shot for Baron Volgar. And there, I think it looks perfect. And this even looks good for just for this figure. I think this is a sick look. And this is probably how I'm going to be displaying this head sculpt in my display, is just on here, just as this sort of hybrid cosmic mythic test shot. Anyway, if you like this sort of thing, if you like pop and swaps, if you like Mythic Legions, if you like breakdowns, all sorts of stuff like that, then make sure you subscribe to the DorkLair YouTube channel. And until next time, may the force be with you.